Opening any business in New York City is very challenging. This was my first time. The biggest challenge is, this is very much an up-and-coming neighborhood. There's a lot of, I think, preconceived notions about the Bronx that we need to change. People think, oh my God, you're in the Bronx, like, that's so far away. I think people have this idea of the Bronx as being this place that's like super far away, but it really isn't. We're just as much a part of New York City and the heart of New York City than anywhere else. The Bronx is the future of the city. There's so much culture, so much community here. The Bronx is finally starting to get the recognition that it deserves. One of the main reasons that we opened up here was, again, we're a Puerto Rican and Dominican brand, and this is where the Puerto Rican and Dominican community is most strong. So we wanted to go to where our people were, the people who grew up with our brands. That was the most important thing for us. We've become like a heritage brand both in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. If you're Puerto Rican or Dominican, you probably grew up with our hot chocolate, which is what we're known for. And so in 2013, my parents decided to open a chocolate restaurant in Old San Juan, Choco Cortes. And it was kind of a way to, introduce the brand to new people or to create a new experience with the brand for people who maybe had been enjoying it for their whole life, but maybe weren't doing it as often anymore, or it was just a way to celebrate our brand and our history and our flavors. And that was kind of the history of Chocobar, how it started. I first came here to see the location, see the neighborhood. Everyone who I met was just so welcoming. Local business owners, community members. People are very excited about what's happening around here, but I think also people are a little nervous about what's happening, which is understandable. I think we've seen in Brooklyn the way that gentrification has basically completely changed Brooklyn over the past 20 years. And so there's a little bit of fear here in the Bronx that the gentrification is going to dilute the community or push the community out. And I understand part of what makes but I think different to any other kind of like business opening up in street corner is that we're a Puerto Rican and Dominican brand. Like, this is part of our culture, our chocolate, our traditions of drinking the hot chocolate with the cheese. We're celebrating our culture, and I think that's what's a little bit different about us versus some big corporation or brand or restaurant opening up here. Like, we're a small family business at the end of the day, and it's something that represents our culture. So I think that's important, that to send that message that this neighborhood is changing, but we can be a part of that change too. And I think that's the difference between what's happening here in the Bronx. Hopefully, that's what we're trying to do, and maybe what happened in Brooklyn with gentrification.
Choco, choco, chocolate, chocolate con té. ¿Qué sabor tan rico tiene? Pues es puro chocolate, chocolate con té.
My name is Carlos Cortes. I was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and I currently live here in the South Bronx. So my hustle is keeping my family's 93-year-old chocolate manufacturing company and legacy alive and thriving. So I'm inspired by our culture, our people, our history, the richness of our culture. Here in New York, you know, the Puerto Rican and Dominican influence is really big, and I find that even though it's very alive, it's also under threat, I find. You know, we're a Puerto Rican and Dominican restaurant, and I feel like every year there's less and less restaurants, brands, or spaces that really represent us. And so I'm really motivated by sort of keeping our culture alive, but also evolving it to the next iteration to make sure that, you know, the world gets to know the richness of the Caribbean, of Puerto Rican food, Dominican food, music, art. That's what motivates me. So in order to understand the history of Chocobar Cortes, I have to talk a little bit about the history of Chocolate Cortes, which is my family's 93-year-old chocolate manufacturing company. It was founded in 1929 by my great-grandfather, who moved from Puerto Rico to the Dominican Republic because he used to make rum, actually. And what happened was Prohibition. And he was making rum in the Dominican Republic, but couldn't export it to Puerto Rico because of prohibition laws. And so he decided to start making chocolate instead so that he could go back to Puerto Rico. And that's kind of how Chocolate Cortes started. And ever since then, you know, we've become like a heritage brand both in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. If you're Puerto Rican or Dominican, you probably grew up with our hot chocolate, which is what we're known for.
Un chocolate.
And so in 2013, my parents decided to open a chocolate restaurant in Old San Juan, Chocobar Cortes. And it was kind of a way to, you know, introduce the brand to new people or to create a new experience with the brand for people who maybe had been enjoying it for their whole life, but maybe weren't doing it as often anymore, or, you know, it was just a way to celebrate our brand and our history and our flavors. And that was kind of the history of Chocobar, how it started.
What's your name and where are you from?
Maria Martinez, I'm from Puerto Rico, Quebradilla, Puerto Rico. But I'm born in Brooklyn, but I raised in Puerto Rico. I'm a head chef here. Yeah, I'm the chef.
How did you get this gig?
Well, I was fired from my last job. I was there 4 years, and then I applied, and they just fired me like in 2 weeks. Yeah, it was very fast.
What's your favorite dish here?
The chalupitas of mofongo, and the mofongo is my thing. Very Puerto Rican, so yeah, have the flavor.
How do you know Carlos?
Well, I met him in my first interview to get this job. So that's what I meet Carlos, Larry, and everybody else.
So you don't even know him from Puerto Rico?
So malo.
So that's the first time you met him?
Yeah, here. It was by Zoom, actually. I met them by Zoom in an interview. They then do another interview of me, like my tasting. Check this out. And then, no, the menu was already in Puerto Rico. I just, when they're gonna give me the job, they asked me to do like my thing with chocolate. And then that's how I get the job. I did like a pastelón. Yeah, it's a hard job, but I mean, I like it. I don't know. Yeah, you have to be like ready. If you want to grow in this business as a woman, you have to like work hard.
How many years have you been cooking?
I was in culinary school in 2008. Yeah, and I started in New York City like in 2010. That's when I started working around.
And where can people find you? You have Instagram?
Yeah, I do. It's Maria Chef in it. Yeah.
Wow, so you're the mastermind behind all this, huh? Hola, hola, ¿cómo te vas? How you doing? Say what's up. What you stirring up there? You mind not zoom in on the chocolate? Nice.
It's chocolate grilled cheese.
Chocolate grilled cheese? Wow, that looks amazing. This is where the magic happens, guys. Look at this. Wow, you want to say what's up to the camera, or are you good?
What's going on, Will?
All right, what's the name? Where you from?
My name's Alan from the Bronx, the sous chef.
All right. How's your experience working here at the Chocobar Cortes?
I love it here, man. I love it. I've been drinking in Bahia Lord since I was a kid. So I grew up with this brand.
Wow. Here we go, man. Where can people follow you?
Albanga.
Cool. Peace out, brother.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it.
So opening has been very challenging. I mean, I think that opening any business in New York City is very challenging. This was my first time, so definitely probably will be easier the next time because you learn a lot in the process. But you know, obviously the pandemic happened while we were in the process of opening, and you know, we opened December 17th, 2021, which was the day that like the Omicron variant was kind of like blowing up. So it's been a lot, but overall it's been incredibly positive. Super happy to just be open, to have people coming in and having a good time, discovering the brand, rediscovering the brand, trying our chocolate, trying our food, coming to the Bronx to experience this space, which I think is pretty unique, and pretty proud of what we've been able to create. So. I think the biggest challenge is, you know, this is very much an up-and-coming neighborhood. There's a lot of, I think, perceptions, preconceived notions about the Bronx that we need to change. People think, oh my God, you're in the Bronx, like that's so far away, but really it's not. We're just, you know, basically in East Harlem, or just one stop from Manhattan on the train. And I don't know, I think people have this idea of the Bronx as being this place that's like super far away, but it really isn't. We're just as much a part of New York City and the heart of New York City than anywhere else. So I think that's been a challenge, is just shifting people's perspective about the Bronx. And I think that's a good thing, because I really believe that the Bronx is the future of the city. There's so much culture, so much community here, and I think I'm excited for what the Bronx is, that the Bronx is finally getting, I think, starting to get the recognition that it deserves. So, yeah.
What's the name and where you from?
My name Kamani. I'm from the Bronx, Uptown.
Okay. And how is it working at the Cortes Chocobar?
It's good. My experience is cool. Everybody's nice. The people is nice.
Okay. Would you recommend anybody here?
Yeah, I've been telling a lot of people to come here. Chocolate, everything goes crazy. The ketchup, the hot sauce. So yeah, I definitely tell a lot of people to try it out.
Awesome. You got Instagram people can follow you on?
ky.chapo.
Cool. Peace.
We've been incredibly welcomed. I think that was actually one of the reasons why I came. We decided to open here, of all places in New York. is because when I first came here to see the location, see the neighborhood, everyone who I met was just so welcoming. Local business owners, community members, local officials. I think people are very excited about what's happening around here, but I think also people are a little nervous about what's happening, which is understandable. I think we've seen in Brooklyn the way that gentrification has basically, completely changed Brooklyn over the past 20 years. And so there's a little bit of fear here in the Bronx that the gentrification is going to dilute the community or push the community out. And I understand that, but I think part of what makes us different to any other kind of like business opening up in a street corner is that we're a Puerto Rican and Dominican brand. Like, this is part of our culture, our chocolate, our traditions of drinking the hot chocolate with the cheese. We're celebrating our culture, and I think that's what's a little bit different about us versus some big corporation or brand or restaurant opening up here. Like, we're a small family business at the end of the day, and it's something that represents our culture. So I think that's important, that to send that message that this neighborhood is changing, but we can be a part of that change too. And I think that's the difference between what's happening here in the Bronx. Hopefully, that's what we're trying to do, and maybe what happened in Brooklyn with gentrification.
All right, so what you're trying right now is our chocolate grilled cheese. It's basically a grilled cheese sandwich with chocolate butter. And that comes from, we kind of took our tradition of drinking our hot chocolate with cheese and made it into a sandwich. And then it comes with a side of the curly fries with our signature chocolate ketchup. And then over here, you're trying the Mallorca Ibérica. So Mallorca bread is a typical Puerto Rican sweet bread that I kind of like to call it the Puerto Rican bagel, because it's what everybody goes to the bakeries on a Saturday and Sunday morning to get. And usually it's served as a sandwich with powdered sugar. Ham and cheese is the traditional way of eating it, or ham, cheese, and egg, but we serve it also the Ibérica, which has manchego cheese, serrano ham, and guava butter.
So, one of the main reasons that we opened up here was, again, we're a Puerto Rican and Dominican brand, and this is where the Puerto Rican and Dominican community is most strong. So we wanted to go to where our people were, the people who grew up with our brands. That was the most important thing for us, and that was the main reason, really, why we chose here. Well, Chocobar is different from any other restaurant in the world, really. I don't think there are many restaurants that incorporate chocolate as an ingredient in every dish. That's pretty unique. We're also obviously a 93-year-old chocolate brand with a history. Any other sort of chocolate shop or restaurant, there are none, but other chocolate spaces maybe, they don't have that history, that legacy of 93 years. They don't have that nostalgia factor of all the people who grew up with it. And when people come here, they are transported to their childhood. That's what they'll tell me. They feel like they're reminded of their grandmother, or their mother, or their tia, their titi, who used to make the hot chocolate for them. That, like, it brings back a lot of nostalgia and memories, and that's really unique. That's something you can't make that up. I think that's part of what makes this space, this concept, so special and so unique to the Bronx, but to New York City and to the world, really. But that's also what we want to celebrate and preserve and continue to evolve. We want to make sure that people don't forget about the fact that we have like the best hot chocolate in the Caribbean. They don't let that tradition die with their tias or their mothers or their grandmothers or whatever. I think my ultimate goal with the Chocobar Cortes is to celebrate the taste of our chocolate the richness of our culture and the warmth of the Caribbean with the world. We want the world to get to know, you know, that the Caribbean has the best chocolate, that we are happy people, that we have so much to share, and that's really my ultimate goal.
Cheers, everybody. I'm having a Choco latte with Carlos Cortes. And this is, what is this, a cheese?
It's a
guava?
quesito.
A quesito?
Yeah, which is a Puerto Rican puff pastry with sweet cheese and guava. It's delicious.
Look at that. Come on. Doesn't get better than this. And the Choco latte, what's inside the Choco latte for people that don't know?
So the Choco latte is basically a latte, like café con leche, but with our chocolate sauce. It's delicious.
Salud, everybody. Come to Chocobar Cortes Bar and try out the pastries, the food, the restaurant,
The cocktails.
collaborations, the cocktails, right?
The music.
Right?
Yeah.
What's the best cocktail that people should order when they come here?
Definitely, I always recommend the Don Ignacio. It's rum, cognac sweet vermouth, and spice syrup, but it comes with our dark chocolate rim, which is, you'll probably see it in our Instagram. It's very photogenic, but it's really delicious. While you're sipping the cocktail, like the dark chocolate kind of melts in your mouth. You gotta be careful to wipe with a napkin after, because people tend to have chocolate on. Yeah,
It's like wine, you know, but chocolate is better.
exactly.
All right. Salud, guys. Cheers.
Cheers. The recipes were created by our executive chef, Ricardo Valdia. He's based in Puerto Rico, and he has been with us since day one. He was the one basically responsible for creating all of our recipes. He was trained in Europe in some of the best restaurants there, and he's also a master pastry chef and chocolatier. So, you know, it was my mother really who had the vision of incorporating chocolate as an ingredient in a way that wasn't overwhelming. It wasn't just like chocolate explosion everywhere, you know, it's just incorporated in kind of like a very creative and sometimes subtle way, because chocolate is just an ingredient like salt or pepper or garlic or whatever. And so really it was Ricardo, the chef, who was really able to execute that in very creative ways, like, for example, our chocolate hot sauce. That's just, you know, something you wouldn't think of, but it's delicious. Probably the biggest one we've done recently, which was with Edgardo Miranda Rodriguez, who created La Borinqueña. She is a Afro-Puerto Rican female superhero. He comes from the world of, you know, Marvel and DC Comics, and he saw that the world of comics was dominated by white men and white male narratives. And so he created La Borinqueña to counter that, because a lot of comic fans are not white men, essentially. And he felt like we needed more representation, more diversity, more examples, more superheroes that looked like us, that looked like our people. And so when we started talking about collaborating, which was actually during the pandemic, when we had some extra time to, you know, like talk and figure it out, we found that we had a lot of things in common, a lot of values in common, a lot of goals in common. So La Borinqueña is also a nonprofit publishing house. So a lot of the proceeds of their work goes to funding nonprofit organizations, usually arts-based nonprofit organizations in Puerto Rico. And we have a nonprofit arts-based organization in Puerto Rico, Fundación Cortes. Our mission is to educate and inspire with our passion for the arts of the Caribbean. So actually through that is how we first connected with him. And you know, what I think so cool about it is that what Edgardo's trying to do in the comic book world with La Borinqueña is kind of like what I'm trying to do in the business world, is to be an example of a truly Puerto Rican, Dominican, you know, Caribbean, Latinx brand, business, concept, restaurant, space, whatever it is, we need more examples of businesses, entrepreneurs, concepts, brands that are doing something, making a splash, and truly kind of representing all that we have to offer. I think, as somebody who grew up with a family brand, a family business, I feel as though, and having lived here in New York now for 15 years, I feel as though there aren't enough brands and businesses and entrepreneurs that represent us. It's crazy. I mean, we have musicians, obviously, we have Bad Bunny, and we have J-Lo, and we have Ricky Martin, and we have Lin-Manuel, and, we have a lot of, talent in Puerto Rico that is represented in certain individuals in entertainment, but there's so much other talent in the Caribbean that I don't think necessarily gets the recognition that it deserves, and that's kind of what I want to change. So anyway, going back to the question about why I love that collaboration, I think that's really why I love it, is because it's two Puerto Ricans trying to do the same thing in different spaces. I think my biggest piece of advice for anyone who's thinking about doing their own thing, or taking a risk and opening a business or starting something, would be to be true to yourself. Put in the work to figure out who you are, what you want to do, what's important to you, and not to anybody else around you. And just making sure that you stay true to that. Because if you don't believe in what you're doing 100%, then you're not going to be able to do it, or other people are going to realize that your passion isn't truly there. You just have to be 100% authentic and genuine and confident in what you're doing in order for it to succeed, because people are going to criticize you no matter what, but if you believe in what you're doing, then you'll be able to execute that and be successful. But if not, then it's not going to happen. So that's my biggest piece of advice, is just put in that work to figure out who you are, what's important to you, and how you're going to make it happen.